Welcome back to the Tool Crib. Today we are going to be putting the Leatherman Raptor up against the SOG Parashear. Now we're just going to be trying a couple of the features that they have in common because the SOG actually has some extra tooling that the Leatherman doesn't have. In my review of it though, I felt like a couple of those things were kind of out of place. So I don't know why they added them in there or why they couldn't have chose different tools for it. But if you want to look at a separate review for each one of these, I'm going to post them up here. First, the SOG Parashears, and then secondly, the Leatherman Raptor. So if you want to look at those individually, we're going to kind of forego specs and everything. We'll just give you some size comparisons between the two. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be trying out the shears on a variety of different things. We're also going to be trying out both of their cutting hooks. Now, I don't have an oxygen tank to try these against, but I would assume that in fact, I know the one on the Leatherman Raptor works fine. I've seen many people that have used it for such. And the SOG is integrated into the handle back here. I don't know how well that works, but it's not really something that I'm really that concerned about right now. So there is one thing that I can't test, but I did see a video where a guy did test these out, and that is the glass break. So on the SOG, you flip this one up, and it's actually, well, when it's broke down, it's a side impact. Now, originally I thought that was going to be pretty good. But the fact of the matter is that thing is terrible. It just does not work at all. I'm going to try to link that video here if I can find it. And if it's not there yet, then just know that I'm going to be putting it in there at some point. Now, the one on the Leatherman Raptor, on the other hand, that thing works incredibly well. On the first strike, it snapped through that glass. So I was really impressed to see how well the one on the Raptor worked. But I'm more concerned with the shears and with the cutting hooks. So that's what we're going to try today. So let me get some material together and let's just put them head to head and see which one can handle what. Now, before we jump into testing the shears out, a couple things I want to mention first. I've noticed that the ergonomics on the Parashears are actually more to my liking, and it's for a couple of different reasons. So I'm going to set these over the top of one another, and you can kind of see that the SOG Parashears are actually a lot closer together here, where the handles on the Raptor sit further apart. You'll also notice that I have to put 3 fingers in here in order to kind of fill that hole in order to have good control over it, and then the 4-finger right there in the little finger notch for it, which works pretty well. They're pretty ergonomic in their own right. But the Raptor has the Parashears has a couple advantages. First of all, I mentioned that it is closer together, as you can tell. So it makes it a little bit more comfortable. Now, I'll be using 2 fingers in the slot here because if I put the third one, it just doesn't work well for me. And then it also has place for your 4-finger to go. But because they're closer together, they are less fatiguing on the hand, in my estimation. I just feel like they work a little bit better. Second thing is, because they have this open frame here and they use 2 sides, and the Raptor does not do that. It just has a single, so they're offset from one another, where these handles are actually right over the top of one another, and so it makes it a bit more comfortable to operate, I must say. Now, it's not that the Raptors are uncomfortable. It's just that you notice that the Parashears are definitely a little bit more comfortable than the Raptors. So the Raptors also have, the way they break down is they have a little couple of notches here. So one on this side where you push it in and it folds over, and then on the other side, and that one folds over. Now this one can be carried, it has an integrated pocket clip. The same is not true of the Raptor. It doesn't have a release. It uses their compound leverage system. So it just swings over and folds right on itself. Now when they're in their closed position, they're basically the same footprint. They're almost identical, as a matter of fact. The only thing that's really kind of different is the glass break on the Raptor sits out just a little bit further. So when they're positioned, or when they're closed up, they're basically the same size. Now, as far as well, of course, the Parashears does not have a pocket clip, so you can't really carry this without carrying it in its case. So the case for the SOG, I kind of like this, even though I don't necessarily like the Velcro closure. I love the fact that you can carry it in a multitude of different ways. So you can carry it on a belt vertically, horizontally, or you could carry it on a molly pack as well. And when all said and done, you set that in there, it fits in there quite nicely. Now, the Leatherman, on the other hand, you can carry it by itself with the pocket clip, or it also has its case. So you can slip that in there like that, and it has a belt clip on this side. And this belt clip you can loosen the screw and you can rotate that to any angle that you prefer. And then when you pull it out, it's just a friction fit, so you can pull it out. Another thing is, when these are opened up, you can also, yes, you can also set them in their open position. Same as, really, I guess you could, because they got a little slot in the bottom of that case. So I bet you can do the same thing with the Parashears as well. You can. So they'll sit in there just like so as well. So that was kind of nice. That's something I missed in the original review of these. So the fact that you can set them in there in the open position is also very, very handy. Good on SOG for including that in their case. Now, the one thing, well, oh, I forgot. When it's in its open position like this, there's actually a catch. I don't ever carry it like this. Well, now that I'm doing it on camera, I seem to have all kinds of issues. So when it's in its case, you have this little flap back here that you got to push back to pull and release. When it's in its closed position, you don't have to do that because the friction fit is just on the clip there. Okay, so let me get some material in here, and now let's try out those shears against one another, see which one performs better. Okay, so I got a bunch of stuff that I'm a little bit in disarray here, so we're going to try to do this one at a time and see if we can't get everything on camera here. So the first thing is just some regular newspaper, or just regular paper. It's folded over about 4 times. And the Parashears SOG has no problem getting through that. And then if we switch over to the Raptors, they also have no issue cutting through that. So both of them pass with flying colors just on some folded up paper. The next thing we're going to do is, I got some cardboard here. So this is a little bit thicker. We'll see how well this does. And I'm not really, feels like there's maybe just a slight hesitation with those going through there. Probably getting the same thing coming with the Leatherman as well. And I apologize if the rain, it's raining here at the RV park where I'm at today, and so you might hear a bunch of rain hitting the roof there. Okay, so next thing is, so both of those fared pretty well, pretty close to the same. I mean, I felt like both of them had a little bit of hesitation getting through that thicker cardboard, mostly because as it comes into the back of the shears, it was trying to hesitate on me, as just limiting my ability to push it forward. So the next thing is some paracord, so 550. And you can see that the Raptor has zero issue getting through that. And the SOG doesn't have any problem getting through it either, but I noticed that the cut is maybe just a little bit cleaner with the Raptor than it is with the Parashears. So if we try that again with the Raptor, they're pretty well on par. I think the cut is still a little bit, you can see how it kind of just catches right there at the end and doesn't quite clip it off clean. If I get it back a little further, you can still see it's doing the same thing, where if I go back in there with the Leatherman, it's given similar results, but not quite as drastic. So I think that the Raptor wins just a little bit. It's just a little bit better in that regard. So now we just got some nylon cord, and we'll see how well it performs on here. And that's cutting that really a lot cleaner than it was that paracord. And whoa, the Raptor didn't get through that time. I wonder why not. Maybe it's because I just wasn't pushing it all the way through. I think I half stroked it. No. So the Raptor's having a little bit of issue with this, which is interesting. Maybe it's because mine are dull or something. If I get it back closer to the fulcrum, then it has zero issue. But if I get it up further near the middle, it was having issue. Let's see if the SOG is the same way. Maybe because mine are just slightly dull. I might need to sharpen mine up because, again, these are pretty well used. So I think the Raptor falls behind just slightly here, but then again, it might be, again, because mine needs to be sharpened a little bit. Okay, so now I found some old rope that was on the job site, and so this is a 1/2-inch rope, and we're going to try it first with the SOG. Ooh. Well, it's cutting through it, but as I'm cutting through it, that you see that they're trying to separate. The jaws are trying to, or the blades are trying to move apart on me. So that's not good. It's just, these are stamped, and these are 3CR 13 MOV as opposed to the Leatherman's 420HC, and then they're solid. You can see the thickness difference there. These are the stamped version, and these are just solid 420HC. So let's see if the Raptor handles this better. Oh, yeah. Much, much better. So the Leatherman doesn't flex. It doesn't give side to side. Now, granted, this is probably not the type of material that you're going to be cutting with this, but it is something to note that the SOG tends to, the blades tend to try to separate when you're cutting through some thicker material like that. Okay, so now I've got some just a 10 gauge stranded wire. This is just copper wire, and this is something I did with the SOG testing it, and it got through there okay. So down at the fulcrum, it's fine. Up here, it's probably not going to work that well because this is pretty thick. So you really got to get it down at the fulcrum. Out here, I couldn't get it cut through. I just don't have the leverage to do so. And the same is probably going to be true of the Leatherman as well. So we'll set that in there. And I think maybe the SOG cut through that just slightly better. Let me try it up a little further. And yeah, I just don't have the leverage. So both of them are the same in that regard. Okay, now I have some 14 gauge SO cord. So this is 3 wires of 14 gauge stranded wire and a 3-wire SO. So we'll see if either one of them can handle this. So we're definitely going to have to get this in the fulcrum. And the SOG, it got through there, but as it's going, it was separating again. And so it's not cutting cleanly through everything. So if I hit it a second time, I can get through there. I just have to reset it to make sure that I'm able to get through that cleanly. And then we'll try it with the Raptor. So you can see the difference. Let's try that one more time. We'll get that completely at the fulcrum, and we'll try to go through. But you can see there at the end, it's just ripping. Now if I set it again and cut it, then it gets through there okay. But the Leatherman is doing that in one shot. So we'll get it up at the fulcrum, and it just snaps it off like it's nothing. So hands down to Leatherman there. And this is where I think what's coming into play here is the fact that the blades are just a lot sturdier, a lot beefier in the Leatherman Raptor than they are in the SOG Parashears. So then we've got some just a terry cloth. This is another thing that I was testing this SOG on. So it did perform really well on this. This is more the type of material that you're going to be cutting with this. Cloth, clothing, any kind of fabrics, seat belts, stuff like that. So this is what I would think that would be what you would normally be encountering with these types of shears. So both of them get through those without issue. The next thing I have is I got a piece of leather here. This is just regular cowhide leather. Let's try it with the SOG first and see. So we'll just try to cut off like an 1/8 inch strip here and see how well it gets through there. Okay, so this one is struggling a little bit. At the very start, where it's closer to the fulcrum, it's cutting through there fairly cleanly, but as you get out, then it's struggling to get through there. So we kind of have to reset this and just fold that leather up to get through there. So it'll get through there, and it's not bad. It's fairly clean. So now let's try it with the Leatherman. Oh yeah, there's a big difference there. So the Leatherman is having similar issues, but not as drastic. So the Leatherman was cutting clean, really clean, up until about the two-thirds of the way up the shears, and then I had to reset. Where the Raptor is probably getting about 1/3, maybe halfway, not quite halfway, before it's really imperative that you reset. Otherwise, you're just kind of, and it comes back to those shears or the blades not being as strong, and then again, also the material that they're using as well. So, in all actuality, both of them got through all that stuff fairly well. Not bad. So let's go back to the paper, make sure we haven't dulled them up drastically, see if they're still cutting nice and clean. And you can see that the SOG is definitely cutting clean. And if we switch over to the Raptor, it too is cutting very cleanly. So I don't notice anything on the blades to see any visible wear from them. And this is something I'm more concerned with the Parashears, for the fact that they're using that 3CR13 MOV, and the Raptors are the 420HC. And again, a lot of this that you're seeing here, the marks and stuff, that's me cutting through rubber on the job site. So any of those scuff marks are probably not from here, but from previous use. Okay, so now the next thing I want to try out, and we're going to fold these up, I want to try out these cutters here to see how well they perform. Okay, so we're going to try both of these on this paracord first. So we'll set the SOG on there. We'll twist it a couple times, and it doesn't do too bad. It gets there through there pretty cleanly. And now if we switch over to the Leatherman, and I think they're pretty well on par with one another. They both cut cleanly, and they're both taking about the same amount of stress to get through there. So let's switch over to the Nylon Cord and see if we notice any difference in that. They actually cut through there a lot cleaner this time on that SOG than it did on that paracord, well, for obvious reasons. And same is true of the Leatherman, but I actually think that the SOG might have cut a little bit cleaner than the Leatherman did, and it probably has something to do with the profile angle there. You can see down there at the base of that, it has that nice oval pattern, where on the Raptor, and then it's also ground in two directions too, so it comes down to a point where this one is a chisel grind. It just goes one way, so that might have some effect on it as well. This one goes more into a triangular shape at the bottom, so it's more pointed, so it takes a little bit more to, it has less cutting surface that's contacting it at any one time than this one does. Now, unfortunately I don't have any strap to cut it on. We could try it on paper and see. And it's not cutting that cleanly. It's kind of ripping that. And I bet the same is going to be true of the SOG as well. So I'll just try to hook it in there. Well, I said I would. Let's try it from the other side where I can get a better purchase on it. Ooh. Okay, so that doesn't want to cut at all. Well, and then again, this comes down to that Leatherman being more of a point. Now, both of these are really designed to cut through strap, to cut through seatbelt material. And so I understand why Leatherman went more at a point, because it's just going to, for what it's designed to cut through, it's probably better in this orientation. But this design here is actually more useful. But then again, it's not cutting through paper. But then, you know, paper's not really the ideal test for testing something like that either. Now, there's one last thing that I want to test both of these on, and this is hard shell packaging from Klein wire strippers that I recently got that I didn't throw away. So let's see how well it gets through plastic material. And it's not having any issue getting through there. And this is going through double layer plastic, by the way. So the SOG has no problem getting through that hard plastic. Oh, goodness. And now let's try it with the Leatherman. Oh, yeah. It's having zero issue either. So both of them get through that hard plastic just fine. Now, when it comes to the blade quality, I think the Leatherman's going to have to take it for the fact that, first of all, it's 420HC as opposed to the 3CR13 MOV of the SOG. The second thing is that blade thickness makes a difference on some of those things that we were testing. So when it goes through larger material, such as that larger diameter rope, you can definitely tell a difference for the Leatherman getting through there a bit cleaner than what the SOG is. The SOG just has too much flex in it because of the shape of the blades themselves, because of that stamped blade. This is more, your regular, $5 trauma shears that you would get. That's kind of how they're constructed. So there are some high quality trauma shears on the market. I say high dollar. They're not as high dollar as either one of these tools, but in that $30 to $40 range. Some I've seen up $50, and they are dedicated trauma shears. Now, because they're trauma shears, one thing that I like about the Leatherman over the SOG as well, and I didn't close that down over here. So one thing I do like about the Leatherman over the SOG is the fact that the Leatherman has a single screw that you can take the shears apart, and you can clean them, and you can very easily sharpen them back up. Where the SOG, you can get it apart, I assume. I haven't tried it yet, but it looks like it's just it just uses Torx heads, a Torx screw, and a Torx shoulder, so that you can undo these, and then you will be able to take apart or pull these out, and then but the blades themselves don't look like they have a screw. They look to be riveted. And so while you could get them out, and you could even get them opened up further where you could actually work on them and get them a little sharper, you will not have the ability to take these shears completely apart for a very detailed clean or sharpening. So I think that's something that the Raptor has over the Parashears. I do think that the ergonomics are better on this one, and then it includes some of those extra little tools. To me, they seem out of place, though. You have a couple of different screwdrivers. You have a rope cutter that, because of the orientation, it just doesn't work that well. And bottle cap lifter all, and then you got a #1 Phillips. So the screwdrivers, to me, seem oddly out of place with this one. I don't mind the other tools. Now, the oxygen wrench is a must-have on a tool like this. I don't think it's going to be an issue opening, closing bottles the way they molded that into the handle, because it's pretty thick on either side. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. Now, they both have the cutting hook, as we were noticing before, but I saw from the other video that I was mentioning before that this glass break does not work very well at all. In fact, I didn't see where it worked at all. Not just not very well, it just didn't work. And so I think they need to reconsider what they're using, what material. They don't list what they're using with this one, so who knows? Maybe they just went super cheap trying to say that it's a function when it just really doesn't work that well. Where on the Leatherman, that is not the case. They have theirs is molded into the handle there, and it actually works quite well. So the other tools on the Raptor that you don't find on the SOG is this one has a ring cutter, and then it has the integrated pocket clip as well. Other than that, they're pretty well on par with one another as far as tooling goes. Now, the oxygen wrench for this one is located here. By the way, with both of these, I didn't check this one to make sure. Because of this orientation, you can see that the Leatherman, this seatbelt cutter is actually it could be used to rip clothing too, I'd imagine. So once you cut through the hem of something, and then you can actually hook them and draw cut. It's something you want to keep pretty sharp on those, and then you can get replacements for these too. So when this one dulls out, you can replace it. I'm sure you could do the same thing with this one as well. But the cutting hook on the SOG does not work. Just because of the orientation of it. It doesn't work in the open position, which may not be that big of a deal to you, but it's something to keep in mind. So overall, I think I still like the Raptor better, even though I do prefer the ergonomics of the SOG just slightly better. I think because just the quality of materials that are in each one of these. I like the fact that the oxygen wrench on this one is in a stainless steel tool as opposed to being in the plastic handles, though I don't know that would make that much difference. But the overall quality of the blades and the shears themselves, and that's the selling point for this one. The others are kind of just extra stuff, though I do think that oxygen wrench and a strap cutter are two things that are a must-have on this tool. Don't necessarily know about a glass break being essential, but I do believe those are. And a lot of people are going to consider that a pair of ring cutter, that ring cutter is going to be essential on this tool, and that's something that the SOG is not going to have either. So in my opinion, the Leatherman is definitely still the winner here. And it's actually, I think it's like $10 less too. I think this one's 80. This one might be 80, but I think it's 70, 69.95. I think is what I've been seeing them for. But it may be higher than that. I might be totally off base there. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that they are priced the same. The Leatherman gets the advantage because of the quality of materials that it has. And again, this has those extra tools. I just think that they're out of place. They're just extra and not necessary on this tool. So take from this what you will, but in my opinion, the Raptor is still the king. My name's Ben. You've been watching the Texas Tool Crib. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next one.